I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julie.
Join us for unbuttoned and unedited conversations.
Welcome back to Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julie. And we're excited to welcome back Siobhan Devine. Welcome back, Siobhan.
Thanks. Very happy to be here. So excited these episodes are finally going to be aired.
They are great episodes, and we can't wait to talk everything about them. But this was your fifth season directing on When Calls the Heart. Tell us something that you love about working on this series.
Well, it's sort of like going home a little bit, because it's like, it's funny this year, my sister came to visit before I was shooting, and she comes from Ottawa, and she's never been on set. She doesn't really know what I do. And I'm like, okay, I have to go out to set. Do you want to come? This is like, I wasn't working yet. I was just getting started.
Yeah.
And so I got to take her to Hope Valley and oh my gosh, she was so amazed. So it's like that already made it special for me,
Right.
that she got to come and see this kind of second home that I have. That's how it always feels when I step even just into the parking lot. Like it's just like so familiar. So yeah, so it was very extra special for me this year.
Oh, that's really fun. 5 seasons, that's sometimes as long as any series goes.
Right.
But last year we talked to you in season 11, and you felt the show had kind of gone back to some of its roots a bit. How does season 12 feel to you?
Well, I mean, it was exciting. Like when I got my episodes, I was like, because what happens is I read all the episodes as we go along, and I watch all the dailies, and sometimes not all the dailies, but many. I go dip in and out, and then I always go to set and see. But when I got my episodes, I was like, holy smokes! I love that there's so much. It's just like action. So it's back to the roots in that. It's still about community and love and neighbors and family. But I loved that there was kind of almost an action episode. And
Yeah.
There was an action episode.
Definitely is full of action. What do you like about filming, working on so much action? Like what's something you really love about that?
Well, it's more challenging, I guess, in a different way. Like when it's like last season, I got to work on some more dramatic dramatic storylines, and those are challenging because then I'm supporting the actor and trying to make sure that the story's told. And then the action is challenging in a different way because it's still telling a story, but it requires so many more elements. So like to find some of those locations, I would be out tromping around the farm in the rain. I mean, I went out so many times because there's like the easy place to shoot, and then there's the maybe less easy but fits the script better. So yeah, we would find a spot, and then I'd be like, I don't think that's quite right, especially the fork in the road, when we had and it was pouring with rain, and I would just put on my rain gear and go out. I'm like, I'm sure there's got to be a good fork in the road somewhere. And then I found that, and it was, it's hard on the crew, but they were, there's such an amazing crew, and they were super game on, like, because we were down by the water, and they're like, if it rains, you're gonna get washed out. I'm like, okay, but I'm gonna have faith that it's not gonna rain. And we're not, and it didn't rain, so it was muddy, but we didn't. So that's kind of it's just a whole different elements. And then the horses, having to work with the horses, which I love. I love horses. I love riding, but they're still very large animals, and they don't always want to do what you want them to. So yeah, it's just a lot more elements to try and bring to the table. But it's fun, it's a lot of problem solving, which is really the main thing in my job, really.
Yeah.
So in episode 9, we're starting on this adventure. It's almost a two episode adventure we're going on here, and it starts off with the Garrison gang has escaped, and Bill and Nathan are starting to figure that out. But it starts out with a little scene where Nathan approaches Elizabeth and gives one of their iconic lines. So this isn't a big action scene. It's a little scene where he's Elizabeth tells him to be safe. Now, when you get assigned something like that as a director, how do you make sure something that's so integral in a couple characters' relationship gets on our script just right?
That's a really good question. I mean, a lot of it comes down to the cast because they are very aware of these important scenes. And it's just about making sure that we get, for me, it's about making sure that we want to see in their eyes when they're, when they're talking to each other, we want to see how they feel about each other. And that is about really getting very tight to the eye line so that we can see what they're thinking. Like that's really the main thing that I try and do is make sure that we as the audience are along for the ride, that we're not being shut out, So yeah, that's really the main thing, is to make sure that we get those eye lines right. And then make sure that, there's not like hundreds of extras. Like, it's funny. It's like, how busy is Hope Valley today? Oh, maybe it's not super busy because it's early in the morning, because we don't want people crossing in front of them. And so, yeah, so, small things like that, but important, super
right. No, important, because that would be distracting in that
Yeah.
moment, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just such a small line, but it, it holds so much weight.
Yes.
Between
Totally.
the characters and for the fandom.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she turns and sees that was like, that's why I put it there, because I'm like, would they have these posters all over, or would it just be on this notice board? So I'm going to put it on the notice board. Yeah. And then we get the two families walking down the road, and they can land right near that notice board, so that then it's not choppy, it's supernatural. I mean, not supernatural, it's very natural.
Yeah.
It's an organic.
It's organic. So she can turn and then she can see, and it just gives us a little clue, as to her a clue and us a clue, because later on, of course, she realizes what's going on.
Right.
And it's the Garrisons, and the Garrison gang is not something she doesn't know about. Jack was involved in the arrest of the Garrison gang originally, and so this is something she knows.
Yes, yeah, and is worrisome to her for sure.
Yeah. So we have the kind of these two mysteries and adventures going on. We have the more serious one of the Garrison gang, and obviously and Allie getting involved in that. But then we also have Ava and her mysteries kind of unfolding. And it's a lot more comedic the way it happens, because you've got Rosemary and Elizabeth, running around and on balconies and snooping. So when you were planning out how to film these, did you want to show them in two very different ways? And how did you come up with how you would?
Yeah, I did, because I think that the danger of the Garrisons needed something to kind of offset it, because we want to have tension, but also we want to not be tense for the whole 40 minutes. So I did. I felt that it should be more comedic, and then of course Pascal and Aaron are so amazing. So they just leaned right into it, and they sort of, because Pascal had two choices. I guess we had two choices, that character. She could be really super annoyed with Jack, with Bill, and be pouting, or she could do something about it. And so it was way more fun for her to be more positive, and so it was sort of two-pronged, but I love that storyline. Was so great, and I really wanted to shoot up on that balcony. Like I wanted them looking through the windows, and then it was funny trying to figure out how the suitcase would go over the railing.
Yes.
And we sometimes we overcomplicate things, because the crew were like, oh, okay, we can we could put it on a rope and hold it so that so we did all the stuff, so that it was on a rope and it didn't fall, and then we would a props person would drop it. But then I said to her, Tiara, I said, can you pick this up? She's my size. So I'm like, can you pick this up and drop it over? She's like, oh yeah. And that's the shot we used. Because I was like, I could pick this up. I bet she could pick this up. Because, some actors are quite small, but you know, like, and their children are very young, then maybe they can't do it. But, you know, she's like, you know, and she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And anyway, it was worked really great. So it kind of taught us a little bit about maybe check with the actors first before you start trying to make their lives easier, and they don't need us to.
But it was really kind of fun, and you know, she was on Ride and stuff. She played a very athletic young woman on that, like, so it was kind of fun just to see her be like,
Chuck it right
toss it over. You know, the railing has a fun tie-in to last season because Nathan and Elizabeth went over the railing into the wagon also. So it just kind of felt fun to throw something else off the balcony.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it was great fun.
Was it hard to film up there? Was there a lot of limitations?
Not really. I mean, you have to get the gear up there, but again, we spent a lot of time talking about what we're going to do, you know. So I'm like, you know, so we were all ready, and you know, we like the DP is ready and gets it, and the crew get the cameras up there and all that. So not really. I think there was probably a safety inspection before we got all those people up. But as you say, they used it last season, so you know, we were reasonably confident that it was. But no, it's not really. I love shooting up there. It's my second time up there because I shot the scene with Elizabeth and Lucas looking at the stars when there was a big party going on downstairs. I can't remember what season that was, but so I really love being up there because you can see the town in a different way. You know, it sort of has a bit of scope to it. So
and you know, it's fun to kind of see people coming around the corners and, you know, making use of the windows too. Looks like a fun spot. You had some really beautiful, there was a really gorgeous shot of Elizabeth and Henry, and I can't remember who the third person was.
Mike Hickam
riding off to go find Allie. It was beautiful, but also it really showed us like how intense that moment was. So did you use a little slow-mo there, or what was the technique you used?
Yeah, we did. I wanted a drone because I wanted to be able to go high. I wanted to again show the scope of the town, and I wanted to see the two, like them splitting off, you know, like they split off. So I asked for a drone that day, so we got the drone, and then put it in slow-mo because you can always like go back to normal motion if you take but you can't go from normal to slow. You have so I prefer to shoot it off slow-mo, and then if we want it to be in the movie slow-mo we can, but if we just want to do it normal speed we can easily turn it up. So that was really super fun, and the way, so I wanted to see them split off and just carry that urgency, you know, that they were riding fast, which they are, you know, to try and because they know that the kids are in danger.
Right. It was quite beautiful, really.
Right. And you feel it. You feel like we gotta go. Right.
Yeah.
You're no stranger to filming some of these Mountie scenes or these action scenes. These were busy, and you had a lot of different action coming for them. So in that one you had to do a split off. You also have Bill and Nathan going, they're off looking for the Garrison gang. And then we previously already had Allie and Oliver go off on foot, right?
Right.
Did you purposely like do all those have kind of a different tempo to them, a different feel? Like
I mean, a little bit. Like I really wanted to make sure because we had split the episode really in half, and we had the comedic half, and then we had the, you know, more serious. I did want to lean into the action a little bit, and the, you know, so that there are stakes involved, and you know, and so I did want to, like, because we did we did handheld, you know, during all the time when Oliver's digging, when after the kids have been kidnapped, and then he's digging, and then Elizabeth comes out, and then, you know, the Mounties save the day. Then that was all handheld, which we don't really do much of, but it felt like it sort of helps us feel in the moment with them. So that was kind of quite unusual, but I think it worked really well. It doesn't feel too shaky, you know, it just feels like it just feels like action, like that, and it allows us, again, I'm always about us feeling like we're with them. Like that's what I'm always trying to achieve, is that it's not just pretty pictures over there, but we're inside the scene as well.
Yeah,
so that, yeah.
It totally works. So they all come together from all these different points, and then we have, you know, the big action scene. So how do you shoot all those different points of view? Like we're seeing, you know, Nathan,
Right.
and we see Elizabeth, and we're seeing all these different parties involved.
Yeah, it's funny because it looks like it's all shot all together, but of course it's all in bits, right? So that so you can get every single person,
Right.
you know, not just their point of view, but like to get the resolution. Like even, you know, we got the last shot we got was of Henry, because, you know, like he came up the rear and behind Bill, and so yeah, it was, so we did shoot it all in pieces. And also we shot all over the place, like all of the not just the action. The action was shot in a grove. We found a grove, but all the other bits of the and people riding and the kids walking, that was just shot all over the place. So that even though it looks the same, but you know, a forest is a forest. There are 2 forests on the property, and one's deciduous and one is more evergreen. So we just had to stay away from the deciduous forest. So, or that would have like been obviously a different place, but yeah. So, and then we just stitch it all together. So it is sort of shot in pieces, especially again, you've got animals and, you know, and then people kicking other people, you know, so that has to be shot in pieces because we want to make sure that everybody's safe. Yeah.
Right. But so editing magic brings it all in. So everyone's converging together.
Yeah, totally. Editing magic. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. And you posted a behind the scenes photo today which was really fun to see.
Yeah, that was from when we were shooting, when the Allie and Oliver are walking, and then that is when the Sonny Garrison finds them in that, and that's also where she leaves the ribbon, and then all the adults come through with their horses and figure out where she's gone. So that was, we were down there shoot. That's the place that I found in the pouring rain, which was like, this is where we should shoot it, and it was like fantastic. Like,
it was worth it. It was worth the extra effort. It's great on screen. You feel like you're out there, you're down the dirt road and heading to this tree with the initials carved on it. But the ribbon that you just talked about, you know, great visual. Allie regularly has a ribbon in her hair, so it felt just very natural for that to happen. And Elizabeth knows it's Allie's right away. And then great shot, you know, the idea to have Nathan grab the ribbon as he goes by. That was fun. Was that
it was super fun. And we did it in, well, I knew he had to have it because he has it in the scene. Sorry, I'm just trying to he has it in the scene afterwards when they're walking through town, because he gives it back to her. So he had to have it. And I'm like, well, he's not going to get off, you know, isn't urgent, right? And then that's also the kind of thing that I like to shoot slow-mo, because, you know, it's so fast. And I'm like, if we just slow it down a tiny bit to make sure that everybody sees what's happening, right? So and then, you know, the guy, he just grabbed it off. Yeah, it worked really good. I love it.
Looks really good. And you're like, yeah, he's got the ribbon and he knows it's Allie's, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like dad's on the case.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we all know she would leave some sign for them. Were there any particular challenges during those days of filming outside?
Well, other than the horses, the rain, and then we have stunt doubles also. I mean, they can all ride. Yeah. They've all learned to ride over the years. I mean, they may have been able to before, but they certainly can ride now.
Right.
But we still need stunt doubles for kicking scenes and things like that. But they do most of they always, like, we have the stunt doubles do it, and then the actors will do it. Like once everybody's comfortable and confident, and so that's always a trick too. How do you shoot the stunt doubles without it looking like a stunt double? So so often they end up having to do their own stuff. afterwards so that we get to see them doing them. Yeah. But I love, it's one of my favorite parts about the show is getting to work with the horses. I mean, last year I got Pal a pony. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
That's right. Yeah. No Pal in these episodes.
No Pal.
But he's still around. He's around somewhere. Pal's hanging out at the barn or something. So we've had these two mysteries going on, but at the same time, we have things happening with Lucas and Edie. And their scenes are definitely a contrast to even both of these. They're a lot more intimate. They're playing cards. They're in the cafe or in the office. And they're starting to shift from adversaries. How do you make sure us as an audience, when you're directing those, can feel like those more emotional changes or dialogue changes versus action changes?
Right. Yeah. It was such a varied episode for sure.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. And I was really glad to be able to work with Edie and Lucas on those scenes, because it's sort of like it's kind of like a budding friendship, I felt it was quite a turning point for them, because it's where she decides that she's not going to work with the bad guy, so it was it's just about making space for them, really, and not shortchanging the time for those scenes. Like, it's easy to think, oh, it'll take 6 hours for this and then we'll just whip that off in an hour and a half. It's like, no, that the actors need just as much time. So it's really just about making sure that that they get the time they need and we get the time we need to make it, to give them the space to act and us the space to light it and shoot it so that they're as beautiful as they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Their scenes of this season have been in more confined spaces, except they had one scene out in a field earlier this season. So it's been probably for a reason, right? Just so we can start seeing them really get to know each other and maybe let their guards drop a bit. We also have a really beautiful scene in this episode with Lucas and Henry in the barn.
I love that scene so much.
Yes. With Lucas coming to Henry and he's, vulnerable, and it's kind of a side we don't always get to see to him. So do you have anything you want to share about that particular scene?
Well, that was really fun because it, Martin likes to do things in scenes. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get you in the barn, like have you in here. And then Lucas can't. So it's really just about trying to figure out why and how it started, okay, so Lucas is, he's gone to find Henry, which says something right there. I love that he goes to the barn to talk to him, rather than we decided to do that rather than the hazelnut farm, because it's an inside space instead of an outside space, and it felt like more of a inside private conversation. So that's why we moved that to the barn. I think it worked really well, actually.
Right. A little more intimate because
Right.
Yeah. You can see they're alone. They're not.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Henry's in a unique position now. Everyone knows he was a power player when it came to business between the mine and then the oil companies. Like, he's a big kind of power guy, and he's turned into Hazelnut Henry, and he's kind of everybody's mentor and the godfather of all the children. It's an interesting thing, but yet when Lucas goes to talk to him, like, he knows business Henry is there, right?
Yes. He's still in there, even though he's like, he's like he's a good guy now, but he still has all those business smarts, and he knows how to handle bullies, basically.
He knows how to handle bullies. Side note, I love Mean Henry.
We both love Mean Henry.
Love that power, like that focus, and so we always are fans of Power Henry for good.
Great, and we got some of that for sure.
A little bit of that.
It was fun to see that side of him come back a little bit. But speaking of, you mentioned how Martin likes to be doing things in scenes. And I'm just curious, now that you've worked with, the character Henry for these 5 seasons, has it changed how you've had to shoot his scenes as his character has changed? Like Henry himself has developed as a character?
I guess it's more, not really. I mean, he's not, he is much nicer, but he's still, I find, quite intense.
Yeah.
So, that intensity is still comes with him into every scene.
Yeah.
Especially when he's, trying to help a town out, like with this scene, and then the later one with Bill in the judge's office. So
Right.
yeah, I think that the intensity is still there. So a lot of it is what he's wearing, because he's not wearing his suits anymore. So it
Right.
comes down to more external things like that, and what he's doing. Those are the things that have changed. But as I said, the inside of him has only changed from bad to good, but he hasn't changed personalities.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Henry's still in there like that.
Yeah.
I do just kind of love that Lucas goes into the barn to get the like down and down. I need this Henry to come out for a few minutes for
yeah. And clearly
he's right there. He's right there for
I mean, it's funny. It's like, does he want to come out? But then he does. I don't think he wants to do it, but I was like, I don't think he wants to do it, but he'll do it for his friend.
For his friend, right?
Yeah. And for I think now when it feels like that's the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So moving a little bit into episode 10. Episode 10 starts with this kind of fun scene that keeps going. It starts with the kids, Cooper and Toby, doing a presentation in the front, and then it moves to little Jack sleeping and a discussion with Emily, and finishes with Nathan and Elizabeth with a lunch and a promotion. Love that's how it would play out in real life, that organic feeling. Why'd you choose to shoot that all as one? Because it feels like everything's got to be right.
Yeah, I think that I really love long scenes. I like scenes that are like one after another. You're right. It's very much like real life. And so it just takes a bit of coordination, or maybe, quite a bit of coordination to get everybody to do the whole scene. But I feel that it's better for the cast because they get some flow.
Yeah.
And then we get to see the connections of everybody to everybody else, instead of just breaking them all up into like little short scenes. And it gives the town some flow, right? Because it's like, this is sort of like a day in the town, in the life of the town. So yeah, it is a personal preference of mine, is to try, and I'm often like, I'll stitch scenes together because I'm like, well, these go one after another. So let's see if we can, shoot them all in one, or like, we're not really in one because you have to shoot, but you know what I mean? Like the master is all in one, like the plan is all in one. And it is to see the flow of the town and the interactions of all the characters. So yeah, it's a kind of a favorite way of working that I have, and I think it's nice for the actors to just be able to take a run at a scene instead of just doing a bit, like that's pretty
right. Yeah. And I will say I really enjoy watching those scenes where it's a big continuous one. It's fun. And exactly what you said. It feels like you're in town.
Right.
Like peeking in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because in real life, the kids aren't doing their presentation for the class. And then after that, little Jay falls asleep.
Right.
And like, that's not how that happens. Right.
Right.
And so it just gives, a really nice flow to it. And when I think about, I working with people, I work with talent, and we are developing, residents or whatever. Like, I think about those opportunities, and I see what you're doing with the kids. It's like, that's a great actor development piece for them to be able to work through a scene like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's tough on them because they have to be, especially there's a lot of kids now, and they have to be quiet for a long time and focus for a long time. But they're all like they're all amazing, and they all want to be there, and they are game to to be quiet and, you know, find something to do while we're shooting all of that, because it you know, they're writing in their books or whatever. So, and we help with that, obviously. How do you stay engaged for that long? Yeah.
Yeah. Also in episode 10, Georgie comes back.
Yes.
Which is really fun. What was it like working with Melissa Gilbert?
Oh gosh, she's so amazing. I was really thrilled to get an episode. Well, especially get this episode. Yeah, she's absolutely as amazing and wonderful as you would imagine. Such a professional and so like wonderful to have on set. Yeah, it was a deep pleasure. Really.
Have you ever worked with her before?
I have not. No, I met her when I went to set. So I had met her, but I've never worked with her before. So yeah, it was really a joy. Yeah.
Because certainly the fandom of Little House on the Prairie and Wind Calls a Heart, like that's a big overlap.
Yes. Right? Yeah. It felt like a good fit for sure to have her on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and that first scene was just real fun when she, you know, comes right out in the middle of Bill and Rosemary talking. Poor Rosemary, you know, gets a little jealous again, I think.
Yeah, totally sidelined. Yeah.
And Georgie not letting it go. That was fun too, because that was also, they were walking and then Georgie comes out. It gives us a different point of view. I love the kind of two power women pushing at each other.
Yeah, really. And then I thought Jack was really great with Bill, like between them, you know, like not really knowing what to do. I thought he did a really awesome job there. Yeah.
No, for sure. Those are fun scenes, and it was just fun to get Melissa Gilbert back, and we'll return back to
we'll return back to her
because we're gonna have to talk about that scene.
Okay.
At the end, but first let's talk about Nathan and Lucas. They have a fun scene with McGinty, which is the first time we've seen them together really this season. And they start out with the first discussion is at the bar. So they're having this discussion at the bar, Lucas and Nathan, and maybe is Lee there, but it gives this like very masculine look to it with the I mean, it could have happened anywhere. It could have been in Nathan's office, it could have been in Lucas's office, it could have been anywhere, but why'd you choose the bar?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's just otherwise, like it made sense because Lee would be there.
Yeah.
And also, you know, Lucas is normally there. So then it's only one other person has to come into the space that's not normally their space. But if it was at the jail, you know, then it's a little bit more serious, I guess. And then so it just made sense that it would be in the not merely the least serious, but the least serious place where they're having this serious conversation, but you don't actually know what's going to happen until the scene unfolds, right? So it's sort of like it just made it more that you didn't quite know what was going on. Like the setup kind of put us on a back foot a little bit, and then so I felt like the right place. Yeah.
So then that scene unfolds in an open space. It's like, oh, okay, we're gonna be riding out here, and then Lucas and Nathan have this great interaction with McGinty. Tell us about shooting that. That was
it was so fun. Like it was really fun because like all three of them are great actors, and you know what? They're all about the same height, which is like super.
These are tall guys.
Yeah, they're very tall men, and then so they had to come in, and then we shot it like as the sun was going down. Right. So we shot toward the sun. So we got the beautiful trees and the sun coming down behind. So that was really pretty. And I think that the open space made total sense because it was, even though it was on McGinty's land, they were not at a, they could have been at a fence or an entrance or something, but it was not. It was like quite bold, I think, of Nathan and Lucas to go onto the land, like to make the plan on the land. And that felt right that they would, be bold about it. And then I love how they each had to stop the other from, and I don't think we ever felt like they were really going to pummel this man, but you know, they were going to step in. And then I love that they each kind of protected each other in a way. Yeah. That was great.
I think it was a fun scene to watch. Beautiful too, but also, you know, just really nice to see them kind of have each other's backs.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And sort of that friendship developing and understanding that he's like pushing their buttons, like, and understanding he's pushing their friend's button. Like, that's what I love. They knew that, you know, that they each knew that the other had to protect. I thought it was a nice way to see their relationship develop.
Yeah, I agree. So we also have the Hazelnut Harvest Festival. I think it's called Hope Valley.
You got everything, honestly.
I did.
I mean, how many more stories can we fit in this one episode?
There's so much happening in these 2 episodes. Like,
and we're going to have a harvest festival now. Yeah.
And when we're going through them, and Sarah messages me, and now there's a festival.
Well, wasn't it so fun? Oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful. I loved like how the art department did an amazing job making it look, because there's so many things happen in that saloon, and it's nice to have something, you know, it's really nice for it to have a different look. Yes. And I just felt that the art department did amazing with that.
Sarah Maberly and her gang do
incredible.
They've just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you know, a lot of people, big long table, big family dinner, but then we still get these small moments between, you know, we have the Mike and May talking about going to Niagara Falls, which is very sweet. Mike buying, you know, a second honeymoon. And then of course, Nathan and Allie have a moment, and then not Jack, Bill comes in, and that was really sweet. So we have all these moments in the middle of this, you know, big to do with the whole town, which was really sweet. How do you, I mean, I guess it's the same. It must be the eye angle if I'm learning anything, but coming in on, you know, what we need to be really focusing on instead of like our other favorite characters in the background.
Right. Yeah, it's really, those big scenes are the most complicated thing about that scene is they were all sitting down. So everyone has to be sitting near the person that they have the most relationship in the scene.
Right.
So it's really, you know, like so Allie had to hug Bill. Okay. So, you know, like so where is everybody sitting? That's kind of the very first thing that I have to work out is, and sometimes, you know, sometimes it's impossible, but in this case, it was totally possible how to get everybody sitting. And I wanted them at the end of the table so that when Bill looks up and sees Georgie, she's at the other end of the table, not like they're not right next to each other. So yeah, so that's kind of the very first thing is that kind of staging, like where's everybody sitting in relation to everybody else. So that meant that Rosemary had to be down at the end, and so Lee had to be at the end, and so it sort of like that drives a lot of where everybody is in the scene. And then yes, we have to get all those looks because we have to get, you know, tiny things like when Allie thanks Oliver. I mean, it's nonverbal, but it still is really important that we get those. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we haven't talked quite too much about them. Allie and Oliver have some great storylines. Like we talked about them going with the Garrisons, but they are getting them filmed and really getting that teen, young adult development with them has been really fun to watch. And you got that great like nonverbal across the.
That was quite moving. It was quite moving. Yeah.
Yeah, those have been fun. And Rosemary and Georgie get a little moment too at the end of the table there too.
Yeah. Yes, which is great. You know, it's nice for them to kind of make up a little bit and before the thing we're going to talk about in a minute.
That thing.
Yeah, so it's nice for them to kind of like make up, and for, you know, Rosemary to hear that Georgie does respect her, and you know that was important that it happened. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we kind of skipped over. There's so many things happening in this episode, but I was thinking about how you had a lot of Allie and Nathan really emotional scenes last season, and then this season we kind of have them back in the kitchen, but this time they're fighting again, and we get like the chair slam, and it was just kind of a different kind of dynamic to what they had last season. But was it fun to kind of go back to that space with them?
It is, and it's fun because there's development happened there because of the earlier storyline, and so now, I think that they are closer. But it was really fun to see Nathan really make a mistake, because he pushed too hard and he was, like scared for her. So then he is more aggressive, as we all do, like when you shout at your children and they shouldn't really. So I felt that it showed some nice development of their relationship with each other, the, father-daughter relationship, because last season was fraught. And so it's a little bit fraught, but it's more normal fraught.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of that, dad, overprotective dad coming out, and that, so many parents can relate to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right? Totally. And I think last season there were stakes because she wanted to see her her biological father, and then that threatened Nathan. But this time there was no threat. She's not going to run away. She's just mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you could see both sides to that story too. You could see why he was overreacting, because this is serious, and also, Allie's side as well.
Yeah.
We should talk now about Georgie and Bill's big moment, the big kiss after, at the Hazelnut Festival. Did you even have to direct them? I mean, you've got these two, legendary actors.
They were amazing. First of all, I have to ask you, were you surprised?
We had a feeling that was coming.
Okay.
Maybe, there's been some stuff like maybe teased by the actors.
Right.
Aaron and Kevin and Jack did a press tour and did a whole bunch of press, and Jack was maybe saying giving us enough information that we were like,
yes, that it was going to happen.
Right. I'll tell you what I was surprised about. I was surprised about how big it was, how big the moment was. It wasn't just like this small,
we got a soap opera kiss,
quiet kiss. Yeah, it was.
I think it was interesting, the kiss. I mean, it was 30 years of pent up, that I think is what it wasn't like a new love. It was years and years of them being in love with each other and not acting on it. And that, I think that's why the kiss works so well, because as I said, it's not new love. It could have been a small tender kiss, but that would have been new love. And that's not what's happening here. So I felt that really worked well for the characters and the character development, and it gives them a little place to go, actually, because it's not like they're going to be able to deny it. So I don't know what will happen going forward, but it just gives a little bit more it just gives a bit more to push against. So we'll see what happens versus a little kiss. It could be
right. Bill's had plenty of little kisses, in the history of the show. So this is something that kind of changes the dynamic.
This feels more like real, like not temporary, right?
Right. Yeah.
In fact, their lines were very like, she's, almost spilling, I've loved you since we were, going through training together. Like, she doesn't quite say it, but, everybody gets it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where the passion comes from, because, like they kind of fall into it a little bit, I mean, I was like, woo, when we
So how much of that was, your direction versus what was in the script versus, what the actors wanted to do? What was that conversation?
Kind of a big combination of all of those things. I wanted them walking down the boardwalk because we had lit, it was beautifully lit, whereas outside, it would have been, again, it would have been out in public. And so, we just had not very many people around, and there was the car just waiting for her. So it was in the boardwalk gives it a little bit more intimacy, I guess. And I think that Jack, Jack and Melissa talked about it. Like, it's not like they just like they talked about what they wanted to do, and then, excuse me, and obviously I talked to them about what they wanted to do separately, because it's really important to make sure that actors are comfortable with any kind of intimacy on screen that they have to perform. So, I always talk to each actor separately and make sure that everybody's comfortable with what's going to happen. And if they're not, then I step in and try and massage it so that everybody gets to be happy. But they were pretty keen to really push the story far. So yeah, it was a combination of everything. How about that?
Yeah. And with just two actors that have really brought a lot to our screens, it's a very believable place for them to be. People who have lived lives and have known each other. It's like you can see that circle back. But with that intimacy, somebody did see the kiss.
Yes, that's right.
That was a fun scene. So once again, kind of just keeps rolling.
Yeah.
And there comes Rosemary.
Which is
so
fun
great,
because the next morning she's like, well, I don't like to, I'm not one to talk. Whatever.
Wait, what?
Yes, you are.
That was cute. So then, I feel like we should spend a little bit of time talking about Jack going missing and the distress and the panic. And kind of how it starts real slow and then it picks up and you can see that. So tell us about filming those scenes and how do you really portray that to us?
Right. Well, I mean, it's sort of a shocking ending, actually, because one would think that the ending would be the kiss and then, and then, so then
it's such a big dramatic kiss.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I was like shocked actually when I read it. And then so it was to make it, it was sort of written that way. So the kids come up and they can't find him. And then you start to see a little bit of Elizabeth, like, oh, he doesn't wander, but like they all start looking. And then as we see each person not be able to find little Jack, it sort of really grows our anxiety about there's something wrong. Like, he's not in the barn and he's not in the hazelnut farm. Like, where is he? And then we tried to figure out how did Nathan find him that nobody else found him. And that's why we had him in the bushes, right? Because he went in the bushes and then never came out of the bushes. And so that was a little bit of a, how do we do that? Because I think that it was written that he went into a forest, but we like the bushes I really liked down the road that they were, looking around the baseball field.
Yeah.
And then we just had Nathan hiding behind the bushes, and LJ, oh my gosh, he was so great. I'm like, you just got to lie there and do nothing, like nothing.
Honestly,
he was really great. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And staying limp, he did such a good job staying limp.
He did. He was amazing, and then he'd I'd say cut and he'd start to giggle, but so yes, and we shot it so that as if it was Elizabeth's perspective. So we were kind of moving toward Nathan and LJ, and then we chased them out so that as they were walking, we were following them. So again, about making us feel part of the scene, that we're right there with them, and so that was really how that was built.
And it really gives the feeling of, it's not just that he was missing, there's something wrong.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Every time someone can't find him, you're like, okay, the whole town is looking for him. Like, it's not, it really helps to build the tension, more tension.
Right. And then, Elizabeth screaming, Jack, like that brings I think it's going to bring everybody right back to season 5 when she finds out that her husband, has been killed. And so automatically everybody's like, oh my gosh, like,
yes,
you can feel it.
Right? This is real.
It was quite tense to shoot, actually, because it was such a serious moment. So it was quite intense to shoot that. But it was about, you're right, about making sure that, because it is such an iconic feeling.
It is.
And so how do we share that feeling with the audience?
Right. And then they just know they have to go to the infirmary, right? Like there's no discussion.
No.
It's like he's not right.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
So we end up in the infirmary.
Yeah.
And it gives we get a discussion that he's not right.
Yeah.
But you get, that's kind of a softer discussion in there.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it is, because I think it needs to be. Faith is like she has a feeling, but she doesn't want to scare anybody yet. Like, I love the way she played that she did have in the back of her mind, she was like, oh, this is bad. But, she didn't want to start spreading panic. So it's she's trying to gather information, but in a super gentle kind of way, so as to not, make the Elizabeth and Nathan panic. So
right. I really loved the togetherness of these moments, and how Nathan was right there with her, and he felt comfortable enough to be there right with her and hold her hand through this. And that little moment where they're both tying Jack's shoes,
that's so cute.
I'm like, I think that's like my favorite. I'm like, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Right. Well, they're just both still talking. It's like the most normal parenting ever. Right.
Yeah. Yes. No, totally. Yeah.
It's interesting as they're weaving these two families together. It's not because Nathan has actually all that parenting experience. He's been through some of those. He's been through those ages, and so it's just interesting to watch how they just kind of fall into each other's space.
Yeah.
And more great lines by Hyland. So what I'm going to talk about is Hyland had a ton of lines in your episodes, and this is really the first season he's had that many lines. How do you as a director work with a child who is really developing into an actor in front of our eyes?
Right.
How do you adjust for him? Like, because I think he's even changing during the season.
Yes. Yeah, I think he's really amazing. He's really, like, last season he was a little boy, and he really loves to come to work, but he didn't have very many lines, and so it was mostly action oriented, and it's sort of like he's become more reasonable, because now you can reason with him, right? That it's super interesting, because it used to be like, okay, let's play with this truck, and then like I would talk to him like he was a little boy, and help him figure out what to do, and then I would maybe whip out a new toy at the last minute, right? So that it stayed interesting. But now he's such a smart little boy, and you can reason with him. And everybody, I mean, all the other actors love him, and he loves being at work. So that helps, but it's very interesting. And he's learning from the other actors about how to behave and how to work on set. And so, it was really exciting to see him this season grow as an actor and also as a person.
Right.
Yeah. And he just became a big brother, which is super cool, right?
Yeah. Those photos that his mom posts are very cute.
Yeah.
Super sweet.
He's going to be a great big brother for sure. Yeah. Yeah. But it's really just like, I go to when I work with children, I go to where the child is at. And sometimes, as I say, it's all about, like basically trying to sneak shots. And other times, like now with Hyland, it's about, he understands the business. He understands what's happening. He knows we have to do this like 17 times. And, and he's chill about that. So. Yeah.
And it's coming off wonderfully on screen now too.
Great.
Right?
Yeah.
For sure. So episodes 9 and 10 usually set up the end of the season.
Well, are we going to get that final scene in the 10th? Because
do that first.
Go set up that final scene at Elizabeth's row house when Faith comes to give the news.
The terrible, terrible news. Yeah.
That's that is an emotional bomb. You really got everything in your 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And you had to drop the bomb.
I did.
So as a director, how do you make sure we understand we just got the bomb?
Yeah, that was interesting because when I read it, I was like, did they have, I had to do all this research on diabetes because I'm like, did they have a cure?
So,
and of course they didn't. So I'm like, oh my God.
But it was coming.
Yeah, that's right. So, but I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? First when I read it.
This is one of my favorite topics. I teach on this topic all the time. So, So how did you get that feeling there?
So, well, I mean, it's really about the acting, right? And setting up Faith, like her moment before she goes into the house, first of all, when she gets the news on the phone and we did this lovely push in on her. I mean, it's telling me volumes of information, right? Like this is not just some random phone call. This is, this is in her soul. And so there's that. We did the push in there. And then when she's on her way and then she has to turn away from the door, because she can't. And then that this is whatever it is not good. Yeah. And then the rest of it is just about stillness, about, it was shot very still and because nobody wants to move because, what comes next? Nobody wants to go to next. And that's a little bit how tragedy works is if you just stay here, maybe you won't have to go into the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And that's what I wanted to do with the end there was just make it very, very still so that nobody went into the next moment. Like that's in the next episode. But in my episode, I just wanted us all to sit there in that moment. So
it'll be a long week.
Yeah. But it feels very real.
It does.
Feels very real. And it's something I watch play out as families process life-changing information. And you have to give them time to process.
Right.
Yeah. No, they're beautifully done. I mean, they have to come in and deliver information that's not good without a lot of answers.
Yes. Yeah. And all the space for the grief, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the three of them just did such a wonderful job.
Yeah, they did for sure. Yeah. Really.
Showing that you can feel what they're feeling.
And May's been part of these scenes too, like that connection with the diagnosis, running labs, how are we going to manage this? It just it's setting up the penultimate episode 11. And you kind of just leave that sitting there.
Yeah, it was stunning. I mean, as I said, I got the best 2 episodes. It was stunning. It's a stunning moment. That's why I wanted you to see 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because so much happens in 10. So yeah.
I mean, you were not kidding. From hazelnuts to diabetes. I mean, you've got it all.
Right. Life-threatening diagnosis.
Yeah.
And then you just leave that set there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Which will change things for
everyone.
For everybody. Yeah. So kind of speaking on that, we know from the end of 10 that there's going to be a big change for Jack and going forward. But what else can you kind of tease on how these episodes 9 and 10 have set up for us to finish the season out?
Wow. I suppose the only thing I can say that I know for sure is that it is about family ultimately, it is about family and family relationships. And I think that there's lots of things going to happen in the next 2 episodes, but that is, I would think, the main setup is about family. Yeah.
Okay. With that said, something we skipped over. Speaking of family, the Canfield.
Oh, the Canfield.
Oh yeah, I just wrote it down.
Once again, you had everything in your episodes. They visit Schwartzman in your episode, and Minnie, who is there's this whole transition. First of all, let's start with, you got a whole new setup.
Yeah.
Get to visit a college.
Yeah.
Did you know what that space was going to look like ahead of time, or?
I love doing that. I was so thrilled to do that storyline. And no, we didn't. I mean, you know, like I work with Sarah and stuff, but Sarah just pulled off another miracle. That is a set we've used many times. We just turned it around so that it was totally different. Like it had different entrances and exits. So that's how we pull that off, because that's not a new set. It's just a set we use all the time, but made to look totally different. So yeah. And then the super exciting part of that story for me also was all of the cast were blind.
Yeah. I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
And you can tell that was wonderful that they use those people. I love the joy of that college visit.
Yes. Yeah. And that the lady Keisha, the lady who played the woman who takes her on a tour, is the most full of joy person practically I think I've ever met. And she just brought that into the space, and you could feel, you know, how you could feel like, oh, she's going to be okay. You know, the family's going to be okay, because this is so full of joy. Yeah, it was really an honor to work on that storyline and with those amazing young women. It was
just like sorry, Julie. The moments with Minnie, like at the beginning, like, you know, well, she wants to live alone. She has to show us, like, that's so relatable. I mean, two of my children have special needs, and even with my daughter who does not have special needs, you feel that same way. But then when you know your child has like extra needs, it's like even more, you're more passionate about that. Like I have to be able to trust them that they can get through this.
Yeah.
So for their safety, and also for me not having to worry, and for the other people, like it's very layered. And I felt like that was very well done too.
Yeah, she did a lovely job. And then to come full circle to being like, no, this is
good.
You can do this, to give her the courage to do it. So I thought that was a beautiful scene too.
It was.
But it was even like lovely to watch. So Natasha plays Minnie Canfield, and she's like so anxious about even going to visit. And then when they're there, you can just literally see her heart open for the opportunities of her daughter. Like that, you can literally just see it happen there even before she's needed to shore things up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? She sees Angela's future instead of worries about
worrying
what she can't be. She sees what she can be. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really it was very special. The whole thing was special. And that was the very last day of shooting that we did that. And
which building was that?
It's the judge's office.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. And so we just turned it around and then put a courtyard outside so that it, you know, to just like, you know, disguise it more.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can see the people walking around kind of back there or whatever.
Yeah.
So, which gives you a college feel, very much so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's people going around there. So your thought was family for the season.
Family going forward for sure. That's the main thing that I think.
Yeah. Very Hope Valley.
Yeah. And so in your 2 episodes, was there one scene that was particularly challenging to shoot?
Ooh, wow. Well, I mean, the action stuff was very challenging. That was super challenging to shoot, for obvious reasons. Just, you know, all the horses and the stunts, and it's just a lot of and then the acting, like at the end of the day, performance is the most important thing, regardless of all that. So that was really probably the most challenging of all of them. But I mean, and then it was a lot. So we just, So sometimes time was, got the better of us, or was like, nipping at our heels. But like for things like I love doing the little scene outside after, so there's a little scene between the Harvest Festival and Bill and Georgie. There's a little scene with Nathan and LJ and the glove. And that was like, such a lovely scene, to have him playing and to have him playing with the older boys, and that moment between LJ and Nathan it was funny. It was a little bit challenging because LJ kept standing in Nathan's light, like he was always in Kevin's light, because we had to have him running in, and he's like 6 years old,
right?
So that was one of the trying to get him to run in and stand on his mark. Anyway, eventually we just used the best take because of the performance, because that's the most important part. But that was a super sweet scene, and then having the little walk and talk with Nathan and Elizabeth, being so, I don't know, romantic,
right? Right? And she gives him I love what you said to Allie and how to admit, and that was
got a little flirty
that was hot.
Kind
of says that was hot. What does she say? She says,
it's appealing, something like that.
Appealing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What was the 1921 version of that was hot?
Yeah. 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 So that was a lovely little
And then he's
scene.
like, oh, it was.
Yeah.
But no, that scene between handing him his glove, his childhood glove, it was very sweet.
Very sweet. But then perfect with
runs off to the boys.
Runs off, yeah.
Because again, real life kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last season when we talked to you, you told us you had a soundtrack for season 11, like when you were in prep and all that. So what was your soundtrack for this season?
So this season I was, because I had so many horses, I spent a lot of time watching how other people shot horses. Like I watched like Billy the Kid, and I was watching the Taylor Sheridan stuff, because I wanted to see, I wanted to feel real, like that it was. So that is what I spent a lot of time on. Was that kind of, like more, I listened to more Western country music, because I really wanted it to feel like everybody belonged on these horses and they were comfortable, and that it was a way of life. And so in addition to watching those shows, I listened to country music this time because it felt kind of country, actually. So and I think it worked out.
Right. I love all your different inspirations for how to shoot horses, and some old ones, but then contemporary Taylor Sheridan. But he's such a big horseman himself. Like he's very peculiar about how you learn to ride a horse and horses are shot. Right.
Right. So, yeah. So I don't steal shots, but I do.
Yeah. Inspired.
Because, I'm inspired by how other people shoot different things. And so, I wanted to, as I say, I wanted to make it feel real. So that was a good place to start.
A lot of research and then application to your setting, right?
Yeah.
Right. Was there a particular scene that was really your favorite out of this block?
My favorite scene out of this block, I really loved the scene in the cafe with Oliver and Allie and what was it? Yeah, and then and there's a little bit with Molly when she gets banged into. Like I think that was one of my favorite scenes. And another favorite scene was also in the kitchen. I mean in the cafe, and that is with when oh my gosh, there's so many names going on here, but Lucas and Edie, when they went for dinner, and then
and Mike and May
forgot to make dinner for the cafe.
Yeah, I love that scene, and it was sort of like a little bit organic, because I think it was Ben who was like, oh, I think he was the one who pitched that they come in late and then they make something, and so then they did a little they did a little rewrite based on his pitching that they had forgotten. Anyway, so that was a really super fun scene to shoot because it had two. I love doing two things at the same time. Like so we're trying to have a serious conversation, and then there's Ben doing his twirls and stuff. I mean, yeah. And then so there's like serious and comedy, and I love doing that because I think they go together, but it sort of lightens up the drama a little bit because it was kind of a serious conversation that they were having. So yeah, that was one of my total favorites. Like at first I was like, oh, how is this going to work with them coming in and then they don't have the food? How does the food go down? Because you can't have too much shoe leather, which is what we call when people are walking and doing nothing, just getting from place to place. Like how do I get this so that they are doing their, that we're not spending too much time waiting for food and then waiting for them to put the food, like they have to put the food down, and the actors help because they fill it with, with moments, but still, you still want to get back to the conversation with Edie and Lucas, right?
Right.
So yeah, that was a fun, really fun scene.
It was a fun scene. It's also fun to kind of throw Lucas in those situations where things aren't perfect. And there's that little bit of comedy just to see how he will react.
Yeah. But there's just so many scenes, like the scene when Edie comes to stay at the saloon, at the hotel. I mean, that was super cute. So super cute. There were so many great scenes that it was so many. I had the best episodes. I just don't even know what to say.
You had so much happening.
We can't even cover half of it.
And then, I mean, literally, there's action, there's adventure, there's serious, there's these small moments. We didn't even talk about Elizabeth and little Jack in the row house and their little.
Yeah. She's going to look after him. Oh my gosh, that was heartbreaking.
So they're just so many things happening in these two episodes. So many things happening, and then you leave the bomb and kind of leave it quietly.
Yeah.
And close.
I leave it for Peter DeLuise to pick up and run with.
and it feels like the right thing to do, though, too. Like, that was the right thing to do.
Great. So. Thank you. Yeah. It felt to me like it was like, I didn't want to I didn't want to steal a drama or over egg anything. It's like, it's dramatic. It doesn't need any, embellishing.
That diagnosis is still dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I as hard as it is, or uncomfortable, I should say, to have to sit in that moment. I think it's important for, it was exactly what was needed. Would you play, you've played this with us before, but would you play a little favorites game?
Oh, geez, I'll try.
We'll change it up a little.
Yeah. You don't have to limit it to one answer. You can answer whatever you want.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Oh my goodness.
Or something you watched recently you really liked?
A favorite movie. I don't know. I wonder what I said last time. But one of the favorite movies that I have watched a few times actually is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's not very many movies that I can watch over and over and over again, but that is one that I can. And then a movie that I watched for this really was While You Were Sleeping.
Oh.
Which is kind of an oldie but a goodie. And it's just because it has very light touch romance in it. And I feel that is a good place to always start with When Calls the Heart, because the romance is light touch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a movie that I watched preparing for this.
So now we all need to go rewatch that, because it's been a while for all of us, I'm sure. Do you have a TV series you're watching now, or something you've just watched?
I'm watching a show called Paradise, which is on, I think it's on, is it on Disney? Yeah, it's on Disney.
Okay.
And it's about a community that goes underground because the world is going to end. And so then America, or a small group of Americans, including the president, end up living underground in a giant mountain. And then, but it all is, of course, not how it seems. So yeah, that is super interesting. I'm fascinated. I'm watching that. The acting is just brilliant. So yeah.
Okay, now this is the second time we've been told this show. So
oh really? Oh no, really?
No, that's good. It's like, well, now we're putting that on the list.
I think it was Ben. Was it Ben?
It was Ben.
Oh really?
We just had Ben on, so
it's an amazing. It has Sterling K. Brown, who's amazing, and he is a very powerful actor who acts like everything is under the surface. And so, but then he many of the actors around him are acting with everything outside. So I find it very interesting. First of all, the story is really interesting, but then to watch the different acting styles and how they help each other. So it's sort of like research for me too.
Yeah.
I could watch Sterling K. Brown all day long.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
He's one of my favorite for sure. Do you have a favorite food? Maybe healthy and indulgent.
Favorite food? My favorite food, honestly, is I love a chicken stew or a chicken pot pie. That's really my favorite.
Yum. Perfect.
Yeah.
And it has been for so long that if you ask me that question in 5 more seasons, I will still
perfect.
I'll be saying the same thing.
Which would be fun, actually.
It would be really fun. Yeah. What about what are you doing, when you're not working? Do you have a new hobby or?
Around and about those, I have started doing weight training, which is very important for women as we grow older. And so that has been incredibly difficult, but very worthwhile.
Yes.
So I have a trainer, and I've been doing that. So that's the main thing, is to try and keep fit for all these shows, because you have to be pretty fit to be a director.
Yeah. You work hard.
Well, it's a lot of standing up and a lot of being, like that. The days are long, and then driving. So I just feel that if I'm more fitter, then I have more to give on set.
Right?
Yeah.
Love that.
Agree.
And then do you have a favorite musician or a song or a band, something you're currently listening to?
Do I have so many? I like a lot of actually like older music, I like a lot of Michael Bublé kind of swing stuff. So that I've been listening to that. It also helps for work too.
Right.
Because it's about light touch. It's about not over, he sings about love and community, but it's all kind of like old-fashioned light touch, and so I like that. It helps me in my life, and it helps me in my work.
So is Michael Bublé your soundtrack for this new project you're working on?
It has a little bit, yeah. A little bit, maybe. A little bit, maybe. Yes.
Yeah. Fun. Very exciting.
And then we're all waiting for see if there's going to be another season, right?
I know. Yes. Hopefully we'll hear soon, right?
Yep. Hopefully there'll be a season announcement. Everyone's got their fingers crossed.
I know. What is it? 13. Imagine that.
Imagine. It's crazy. And more stories to tell. That's the
there
amazing
are more
thing.
stories to tell.
Yeah. Every time I get the new scripts, I'm like, wow, I can't. It's crazy that 12 seasons worth of not repeating yourself. It's amazing.
12 seasons, and you have an episode that has so many different stories in it that we can't even talk about it in 1 hour.
Well, I think the 1920s too is just breathed just this freshness into the show too.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I think you're completely correct.
Yeah.
Because there's been some awesome, the whole season has been awesome, right?
Amazing.
Yeah. I've loved it.
Yeah. It really has been one of the best seasons, I think, so far, for sure.
Absolutely.
At least I feel that way.
Yeah.
That's what's important, isn't it?
Well, this has been really wonderful. We love having you on. We love chatting with you and getting to learn, and hearing your point of view. So thank you for being here. And where do you want people to follow you on social media?
I am on Instagram.
Okay.
So that's kind of the best way to follow me. That's I'm on that, like, I think, yes, I just posted something today, and that's the place that I would post anything that I have. So yeah.
Right. So we'll be checking out for what's to come. Well, thank you for being here, and hang on one second and we'll end the recording. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.